Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
We are back with episode 318 of the Online Success Journey. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur who's excited to share the very steps they took to build their business. And you will want to subscribe right now and ensure you'll never miss a journey like this one. Today we have Ai Ching Goh, co-founded a web app which turned into Piktochart, a visual communications tool that makes it easy to condense and consume information. Hi, Ai.
Hey, Patience. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming. My audience are excited to hear your story, but just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
Yeah, I think it's always been a lot about, talking about the importance of stories itself in a person's lives. And my whole life has just been a lot about, one thing from another has just been a story. And the whole thing has always been a journey. So I felt that even your podcast itself, like how stories really form and shape our journey as an entrepreneur, like that is, one thing I would like to share today.
I can't wait to hear more about that. But let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Sure. So my husband and I co-founded this company 10 years ago, Piktochart initially. Before that, I was actually in corporate and I was working very young still, like it was my first job. And I was going through a very bad burnout. And out of that, I was hospitalized and I went through a surgery. Most people took about 2 weeks to recover and I took 3 months in bed. And because I was bedridden, it made me think a lot about my life and it made me think about what was really important in my life. And like I said, everything was a story for me. And while I was recovering in bed, it made me think just, what kind of life, and I knew that work was going to be a big part of that, but I wanted to be able to create a future of work that wasn't so constricting and one that, I would feel that I won't have Monday blues. Today, we call it a people-centric organization, but back then I didn't know the words. So all I knew was that. So that without having an idea yet, my husband and I went into consulting where we built websites and, e-commerce type of sites for clients. This was more than 10 years ago. And while we were doing that, we came across we needed to find our own customers and our own clients. And that was how we came across like inbound marketing. HubSpot, I think, was very, very big back then. They talked a lot about content marketing and how the future of marketing was going to be pull marketing. You're not going to be pushing stuff to people's faces anymore, but they're going to come looking for information and hopefully they're going to find you. So that was when we thought this whole movement is probably going to become more and more visual. And then we thought that infographics is going to be very important as a part of that. So I told my husband, why don't we start a company that, did that? And that is how the story of Piktochart came to be. It was about 2 years ago, we started having another idea after working on the company for some time, we started having another idea around what is the future now of storytelling. And we felt that while it was great for people to be able to create, charts and timelines and diagrams and all kinds of visuals to communicate their stories and in a visual format, it was even greater and, better if they could do it in video, because on video, there's so much of expression, so much of meaning and emotions that can be conveyed. And we felt that was the most authentic an expressive form of storytelling that was going to dominate the world in the next few years. And it's really going to explode. It's already exploding, but we think that it's going to get even better. And that was how the whole idea of Pictostory, an all-in-one, very, very easy video content creation tool for everybody came about.
Wow. What a background, Ai. But why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I think I alluded to that a little bit, around my story earlier. At the company, we have this like 3-pronged purpose, where we said initially, at least in the company, we didn't have all three. What I knew was that for sure we wanted to be people-centric, that people will come and work with us, whether they were interns or whether they're full-timers, it doesn't matter. We just want everybody to get better at their craft, and they really enjoy the work that they do, and they enjoy the people that they're with. So like we want, work to be a very meaningful, purposeful place. So that was the first like pillar that we got. The product itself as well, we knew that we were filling up a gap, not just in creating infographics, but we knew that we were trying to help people who didn't know how to tell their stories in a visual way to be able to do so, especially in a business and a professional setting. So then we started to also do that. Thirdly, the third one kind of came, and obviously every company has got to sustain through either profits or revenue. And we said that we wanted to also build a company that was going to grow profitably, but sustainably as well. So we want growth, but we don't want crazy, rocket ship growth. We want growth that is sustainable and profitable at the same time, so that we can continue doing what we're doing and continue to prioritize our people, our own employees, as well as our users and customers, and build, products that we love and products that other people love. So that's kind of why I don't have one answer. I have three.
Thank you for sharing. Let's put Iman aside. How do you know you are successful?
The second I have in my life, at least, call this whole concept like living life backwards. And what it means is, because you heard it from me earlier that when I was only 20 plus and very early on in my career, I was faced with a form of, it wasn't death, but in the sense like I was immobile and in bed for such a, like 3 months is quite a long period of time. And it really made me think, if I'm to die today, or if I have to die anytime, what would I most regret not doing and doing? And that's how I define my success. I don't, again, have one measure for it, but I can tell you that the whole, money and everything is like a very small part of it. Most people and everyone, like people have surveyed this, people of their deathbeds, they always regret not spending time doing the things that they would have done. For example, travel the world, get different experiences, or spend more time with their loved ones. Everybody has this type of regrets. It's very rare, or I've never at least heard of it myself, that people would have regretted, I should have built the company to become a bigger one. And that's exactly what I think. The way I track success, at least at a personal level, has always been the quality of the relationships that I have with people. And just, I'm also a spiritual person, so I look myself at my whole spiritual walk and whether or not I'm actually growing in spirituality every single day. So that's from a personal perspective. But of course, if you ask me from a company's perspective, I have a slightly different answer.
What challenges have you faced while building a product in a very competitive field, which is based in Asia, but you are building it for global?
We have a number. So you kind of rightfully pointed out, I think these days when we're a SaaS product targeting the whole world, it really doesn't matter where you're based. Like some people ask me where in Malaysia are you based? And I'm like, it really doesn't matter whether I'm in Malaysia, I'm in Russia, or, I'm in London or I'm in San Francisco. I think sometimes the level field is almost, the playing field is almost level for everyone. Unless the company is striving to be a Goliath and a real big giant in its field. But I think to build the type of company that we want to build, which is people first, bootstrap, but profitable, and we're trying to grow sustainably, I felt like it can be done anywhere. So I would say for me, being mostly based in Malaysia, before the pandemic, I traveled a lot. Actually, I traveled quite often to the US and to Europe, both because I'm married to an Italian. So we travel a lot, and that helps us with networking and meeting partners as well as mentors and all that. Yeah, the biggest challenge for me was just getting mentors and meeting people who were, in SaaS and like-minded, and we were going through the same things. And I do have entrepreneur friends, obviously, here in Malaysia, and I have mentors as well in the US. Being able to be with them in the same location obviously helps the person to grow and learn a lot. And that's the part that I miss a lot by not necessarily being near where all of these startup hubs are. I have to rely on virtual networking.
What challenges have you faced as a couple working in the competitive market?
As a couple, in the earlier days, some amount of challenges for sure. But then I think over time, and I've said this many, many times, I've been working on this business now together with my husband for 10 years. I've known him for much longer. We dated much longer before then. And I would not have chosen a different co-founder, despite all of the different buttons that we both hit on each other, like to send the alarm signals off. But it's really wonderful to be working with someone who fully gets and are as committed as you are, and we have the same goals and the same vision for the company. So there's barely any way that that could go wrong. In terms of, I think, like challenges in a competitive world, there are many things. I felt that, and a couple of times I've shared this too. There were a few times when I felt that the company stagnated and stopped growing. And I mean this in terms of like revenue and all that. And those times were the times when I felt like I stopped growing myself as an individual. I became very, how do you say that? I became very entrenched, like, in everything that I'm working on a day-to-day basis, all the operational stuff, the hiring, the firing, having the difficult conversations, and then the financials, the projections, the, roadmaps and all that. And I lost track that if I don't grow myself, then basically I cannot grow my team and I cannot grow the company. And that's still one of my regrets. And that's why I always make time for learning, by reading, by listening to other people's like stories, as well as just by sharing stories like whenever I can, because I always say this when I speak to somebody and they ask me questions, I feel like I'm actually learning more than occasionally, because then there's clarity to what I'm saying, and they ask probing questions, and it makes me think a lot. So I would say that challenge has always been like, I think being pushed out of the comfort zone and needing to constantly feel that I still don't know enough, like I still need to learn. That whole hunger has to be somehow built into the entrepreneur.
How do you separate your everyday life away from your business as a couple?
Oh, that's tough. I'm still learning that until today. So I'm doing this call, and it's it's at night because of the time zone difference, and my husband is taking care of my daughter. I think they're playing games right now. So I had to compartmentalize and divide my life almost into compartments, which is set very, very clearly. I have my own room where I work. It's kind of like a studio. And when my door is closed, my daughter knows that she can knock on the door, but she cannot enter. And like, it's, life is just kind of split up. My husband doesn't have such a strong boundary, but I need it, because for me, if I'm focused on something, I need to get the work done. And that focus time is really helpful as well, because if I can focus on the most important work during day, then I don't have to think or worry about work after work hours. So if it's after work hours, apart from abnormal times when we have launches or when I have calls like this, I don't usually work, and I'm trying to spend some time with my family, or at least trying to unwind and not do work. So we're all working from home now. We're a fully remote organization. We're 4-day work week as well. And because of that, we really need to be very disciplined, because otherwise burnout can still happen even on a 4-day work week company. And I've learned that pretty fast myself.
Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
Wow, the day when it all went right for me. I don't even know if such a day happens. Some yes moments. There are times when, when we made a launch and we partnered up with a separate like partner and vendor, and then, as we check and monitor the spreadsheets, and you're just seeing like sales, come in, and people putting in their comments and their feedback and everything on, whether it's on Facebook or some social media. That is a very, like, how do I put it? It's a very exciting moment to just see, like the product that you've built for so long, it actually has traction, and, people in the market actually want to buy it. That is a day where, your months or years, even sometimes, of hard work just pays off just through that one very simple like launch event, which is really nice. I think like the yes moment, is felt a lot.
Okay, you've been in business for a long time now, and you have met entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. But can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
Oh, I absolutely think that everybody can be an entrepreneur, even the most introverted people, even people, who don't seem to be of the right age, or too young or too old. I totally don't think there's such a thing. And I also do not believe in geography like boundaries. I don't think that just because you're based in, I don't know, a developing nation or, with less access to money and to mentorship, I don't think that any of these are valid reasons at all. There are successful entrepreneurs everywhere we go. And yeah, I don't think it's something people are born with. I just think that there's certain skills that make different people more astute, or they're clearer in their thinking, or they're better maybe strategy or the technical side. And all of these things are great to have as assets and skills, but I totally think everybody could be an entrepreneur.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
What have I learned from business? I've learned that no matter how many years you're doing this, it still feels like you're learning it for the first time, if that makes sense. So, like if you go to school and at 7 years old, you go to school. So like when you're 8, you'll be like, oh, I've, graduated to like the 8th class now. And then when you're 9 years old, then you go to school again, you're like, oh, I'm 1 year older, 1 year wiser. But I have to say that sometimes in business, I feel like it's not necessary like that. Like just when I think, oh, I know so much about this one thing, and then an occasion would present itself and I would realize I still don't know that much about this one thing. And I feel like I'm constantly learning and learning and learning, and it never really stops. Like it's beautiful. I mean, that part and that journey as well of being an entrepreneur. But I think at the same time, it requires that person to be a very humble and strong and almost like a positive person to keep, going through all of these like experiences and all the ups and downs as an entrepreneur.
What is the most dangerous belief an entrepreneur can have?
That he or she is right all the time. Yeah, related to what I said, because it's every day is day zero. Like you still have to be hungry, you still have to, keep learning, and that part will never ever stop for every entrepreneur, no matter how successful they are.
What are you still doing in the way you work that you just know you have to stop doing?
So I felt that for me, and this is more in the past, but it can still happen if I'm unaware. There's some times where I fall in love with the idea rather than the problem. So in other words, I fall in love with the solution rather than the problem. And that's very, very dangerous for an entrepreneur. And I need to stop doing that. So I'm in a business where we build storytelling tools. That's like a tool of creativity and imagination. It helps people who are not, well, at least they think they're not creative, but actually they are. And, to design and to visualize their stories and their ideas and things like that. So what happens is, as a founder, and I'm not a designer, but I consider myself with a lot of imagination power. And it's very hard for me to stop myself from chasing the most shiny, bullet down. Yeah. And that's a very dangerous path for an entrepreneur to take, because when you fall in love with a solution, you're not solving any problem. You're just, you're building something shiny, but it doesn't mean that the market needs it at all. So that's one thing I've learned that I need to stop doing.
What grounds you?
What grounds me? My faith in God. I have to be very honest on this. I don't think there's anything else that grounds me. I have suffered from depression and mental health issues in the past, and nothing apart from my spiritual walk with God has grounded me. I've tried everything. I studied psychology, in fact. So my academic background and everything was actually rooted, and I studied psychology for that reason. I wanted to understand the human mind. I wanted to understand what makes people tick, what makes people depressed, what makes people anxious. And while doing all of that, I realized that this really is it's a spiritual problem. I don't think physical drugs and exercises will be able to cope with everything. So that's my belief, but that's the one thing that grounds me.
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely not do?
Oh, I think I would have done everything that I would have done, because all of them gave me lessons. But there's one particular thing that I would have stopped doing in my first year. And I think that would have been because I went out and I looked for feedback and I was pitching constantly, in competitions and all that. All kinds of advice come in. And sometimes because the person is so authoritative, like they carry a lot of weight. What they say carry a lot of weight. And I have this tendency to just listen to them. And I didn't realize that I was wrong. like we do as entrepreneurs, and we have that responsibility to filter through all of the feedback. But in my first year, I didn't know that. So I just listened to everybody and I tried to take in all the feedback without, filtering it myself. And I didn't have a lot of confidence that I knew what I was doing. So I listened to a lot of people. But yeah, that would have been the one thing I would have avoided in my first year.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
I contributed mostly to my team. I have an awesome team. Today we have celebrated like 10-year anniversary. So people whom we have hired in our first year are still here with us today. And I find that a blessing. And I cannot say, like, my husband and I are unable to build the successful company that we have today without the whole team that is helping us out, the developers, the marketers, the product people, the designers, and even the operational people. There are a lot of people, and we have lots and lots of people who've been with us for years, and I really attribute our success to them.
You mentioned that you have mentors.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors has told you?
So I think what I value the most is I have this one particular mentor, and she has been challenging our ideas in a very subtle but respectful way. I actually don't mind her being more direct, but it's fine. So whenever I bring up an idea, and she would be like, "Are you sure people really want this?" Like, and she'll just ask me questions like that, like, "Are you sure, like, that doing this would actually help you achieve this goal?" And sometimes it's so funny. It's just that one question that she asks, and I'm like, "Oh, actually, I'm not so sure. So maybe let me go dig up some more information, and show it to her." But she doesn't even say no, or she doesn't say like, "Hey, this is a bad idea." All she does is ask me really good questions to make me think about the origin of the idea itself, where I got it from, and why I think it'll be successful. And of course, ultimately, she's like, "It's your business. You have to run it your way." But I find all of these questions that she gives me whenever I present to her something very, very helpful.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
Yeah, I seem like an extrovert to a lot of people because I don't mind, I love talking. In fact, I tell people that I think by talking sometimes because that's if I don't think by talking, then I'm thinking by writing. But either ways, I have to put my words in writing, and because of that, most people think that I'm an extrovert and that I love being together with people and all that. But I'm also a person who I deeply enjoy like solitary events more and more as I grow older now. So, for example, I still really love painting. I love doing craft with my daughter and just spending like some really quiet alone time. And because of the pandemic, I think especially not so much of traveling, but I actually miss being out there in the nature. And that's a part of me that I think most people don't know. If they were my friends, like they would think that I crave to be around people, and I have to be like the center of the attention like all the time. But it's not true. I actually the more growing up, I feel like I'm mellowing a lot. And I love now like just reading a book, being quiet, and like spending very, very quiet time. But that's something that I think people can't see, and they think that I have to be busy and constantly doing things, but that's not totally true.
What is the most important question to ask someone who's bought from you?
I would think that the most important question to ask is like what, well, first of all, I tend to always want to know what is the person's background, as in like what are they doing, what are they working on, and then what's their use case and why, would they have a need for the product, because that is that helps us to understand like the fit between our product and their use case and what they're planning to do. And it also helps us very much to make the product a lot better. So understanding the customer and his or her intent has been very, very helpful in our research and helping us define who we can be and also position ourselves correctly in the market. So all of this to basically attract more and more and to build better products for the right group of people.
Okay, tell us why you went on a 4-day work week and if you
Yeah.
have any regrets.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We went on a 4-day work week. Well, we started experimenting with it last year in Q4. So the year itself, 2020, was extremely like it's not normal by any standard for anyone. And we made a decision in April of 2020 to go fully remote. So we let go of the office and we're like, even when the pandemic's over, we're never going back to the office. And then later that year, what I started experiencing together with my leaders was that when we're in meetings, like just Zoom meetings, and we would have to repeat like the question multiple times, and we're like, what's going on? Like, why do people seem so dazed? Like, it's like, you have like the spiral in the eyes, and and we know that it's not because they're sleeping late playing games or anything like that. It's nothing. We know that they were overworked, and we try to think about some things that we could potentially do, including even maybe, I don't know, relaxing the company goals. And we did bring a couple of our launches back due to vacations and wanting our people to take some vacations. But after that, we thought, like, should we maybe give unlimited vacation days? But we read about it and it seemed like that policy didn't work for a number of other organizations. And then we also read about the whole 4-day work week, and that it somehow, when I started reading it, it really resonated with me. Not so much for anything. I felt that that not every organization is able to do a 4-day work week, because such an organization probably prioritizes its people more than and profit itself. That type of company would be able to then do a 4-day work week. So when I first read about it and understood the mechanics like behind it, why some other companies did it and they were actually successful, meaning the companies by all of their metrics, ranging from people, purpose to profits, were all up after doing a 4-day work week, I thought we could actually give this a try. So I wanted people to have more time for themselves and that they don't overwork themselves. So like when you have a 3-day weekend, it's great for your health, clearly, and for your family time. And we hope that with all of this rest, when people come back, they will be a lot more relaxed and they would give like their best thinking at work. So like that's, that was one hypothesis that we had. I do realize this now because we've been doing it. This is our 4th quarter, so it's almost a year now, like trying it out. And I realized that productivity really has gone up. The reason is because when you have 100% of your work that needs to like be cut down into 80%, you've got to eliminate some of the work, which includes like management. So we started to cut off all of the managers, like unnecessary work. For example, like leave approvals, vacation approvals and all that. We're like, people, you all take out yourself. Personal development budget, it's self-approved, which means a person is just given a budget and they decide what they want to do with it. And we also do we do multiple things to reduce unnecessary meetings, unnecessary, management overheads, so that people can hopefully manage themselves better. And we do less management, and at the same time, everybody gets to do more work, less, meetings and all this kind of like secondary things. So we tried that out. So I saw that this is a very nice benefit to have. We didn't expect it. Like we went into this thinking that the primary benefit that we were going to reap was just healthier and happier employees. We didn't think that we were going to get, much more out of it, but we did actually. I can clearly see that productivity has gone up.
Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about it and who's this business for?
Sure. So we have 2 products. Piktochart would be the one that's more known in the market right now. So Piktochart started off, like I mentioned, as an infographic tool. Today, we're more of a business storytelling tool. The reason why we say that is because when people come and they go like, I have something I have to visualize. I need to convince my stakeholders, my partners, my customers, or my boss, in order to be convinced of this particular idea, then they would use an infographic, a pitch deck. So it doesn't matter what the mean or the medium is. What matters the most is that they have a story, they have some data, they have some information that has got to get across in a very visual way. That's what people come to Piktochart in order to do. So these include your project managers, they include your consultants, they include your marketing people, they include your HR folks, because all of these people deal with a lot of data and they need to do a lot of convincing. So that's for Piktochart. For Pictostorm, which is a relatively brand new tool, we're more like an all-in-one video content creation tool. So like if we recorded this as a webinar, for example, in video format, I would be able to, instead of taking the whole 30 minutes, I can cut this up into 5 minutes, 4 minutes, make it short and sweet, and then post them up on different social media. And that ROI from the marketing tends to be more than the actual webinar itself. So we have positioned this primarily for course creators, and there's quite a lot of them these days who create courses and monetize them. We also have created this. They're still consultants, they're still marketing people. Some HR people also will tend to need this, but we're seeing this more and more for coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs, marketers. There's some overlaps between the two products in terms of the target audience, so that's nice. But in general, both products actually do business storytelling, and we, just one is more for like visuals and more static visuals, and the other one's videos where it conveys a lot more in storytelling.
Where can we find this fabulous program, and how can we connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So the address for both of them, so one is piktochart.com, the other one's pictostory.com. So for Piktochart, it's spelled Pikto chart, and then Pictostory is Pikto as well, story.com. And to connect with myself, you can look me up. I'm Ai Ching Goh on LinkedIn, and I'm AC Goh on Twitter. So these are my social media handles, and be happy to speak with anybody.
Thank you. There will be more from Ai in a moment. If you are listening to this on a podcasting platform and you're encouraged by Ai's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has tons of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs' guests' journeys, all there to help you find a path to your own online success journey. The site offers exclusive members-only content, and you can join absolutely free and be part of this amazing online success community today. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you're up for it.
Sure, let's go.
Thank you. Do you like to watch movies or read books?
I am more of a book reader, not so much of a movie person.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
I can think and make a couple of recommendations. For culture, I felt that this one just kind of shook me up because I didn't think that it would have any relevance to the way we ran the company, but I was surprised by how many things I agreed with. And it's the No Rules Rule book by Netflix. The other one would be Deep Work by Cal Newport. And that one has basically helped to shape my mind around the 4-day work week as I was doing a lot of research about them. I have some others for like strategy and everything. There's 7 Powers that I really liked for strategy and just thinking about the moat and defensibility of any business. I read a couple of books, but these are a couple of them that I would recommend.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
Down to the last $100. That's it. That's challenging because until the very end of it, I would want to make sure that the customers and whatever it is that we have promised them will be honored as much as possible. So I'm trying to think like if it's down to the last 100, it would probably be for the customer. If that was what we have to do.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your handbag every day, what would be written on it?
I would probably have, something written around. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't usually write things if I, like as a reminder, but I felt that it will be around, God gives grace to the humble. It would have something to do with humility because, like I mentioned, I felt like life is a never-ending journey of learning, and it's very, very important to constantly keep that like humble posture.
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you're only on the way?
And from a personal level, at least, and I always and constantly evaluate myself at the end and at the start of every year. What are my lifelong goals? And like I mentioned to you, just live life backwards. And I would constantly be thinking whether or not, I'm on the right path. So from a personal perspective, because of all the constant like retrospection in myself, I don't feel like I've dishonored myself, in that sense. But from a business perspective, I don't quite feel that we've achieved all that we wanted to achieve yet as a team and as a company. So I probably wouldn't answer that question as in I'm definitely sure, that I'm successful in that perspective.
Will you ever stop?
Well, it depends. Stop in what way? So you may stop the venture, but then you will continue going on because as an entrepreneur, you never stop like ideating and solving problems for the world and for people. So in that sense, I think I will never stop. I will continuously and always be an entrepreneur. the ventures may change. That I don't think it's impossible. Like we started out a new venture, just last year. So that's so there are always going to be new things, and some things will be shelved, and new things will come up. So yeah.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
Yeah, sure. So LinkedIn, Ai Ching Goh, and Twitter, AC Goh.
It's been great to have you to share your online success journey with us.
Thank you so much, Patience.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and I.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on our website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast, and they're only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite platform to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at iTunes and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share your journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out her course on clarity while you're at the website. Finding clarity is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.